Oh, hey guys, how you doing? It's Henry at Mowers and Blowers! Good morning. Nice cool day in Long Island now. It's almost the end of September and the temperature's around 65, 70. So it's really pleasant. Such a nice day today. I was gonna just sit at home, watch Netflix, but you can't waste a beautiful day like today. Anyway, I'm finished with all my push mowers so far that I have. They're all ready and listed for sale. So, what do I gotta do now? That's right. I have 3 lawn tractors that I still have to fix. And the first one here that I'm grabbing is this Toro lawn tractor. It was a 1438, 14 horsepower, 38 wide deck. HXL, which means it's a hydrostatic transmission. As you can see here with the blue strap, to pull the transmission disengage lever, it's spring loaded, so when you let go, you can't push it. So you have to hold the lever. So I have it tied up so it's easier to push. It's been sitting in my shed for about 3 months, I want to say. I got it from my friend Nick from Bellport, who gave it to me. He bought it or got it and took the engine, and so he gave the carcass to me. He does that all the time. I've had like 10 or 15 carcasses of crap from Nick, which I appreciate. This one just needs an engine, as far as I know. Front tire is down, so I'm gonna inflate it really quick with one of my review products, just so it's easier for me to push to the front of the garage, and we'll go troubleshoot it then. As you guys know from previous episodes, I got this engine block with all the parts missing from my friend Mickey over in Lake Ronkonkoma. Just gave it to me. It was off an LT1000. I had all the parts. Got this cover from Mark over at Liquidation Flips and a bunch of other parts that I had in my garage. Made my own linkages for the throttle and choke control. And I believe this is ready to be mounted. I don't know if it works, but I've assembled an engine and we can troubleshoot it once I get it mounted onto this. The hood is a little cracked and it's not held on with any bolts, but I do have the bolts, and we'll remove this hood and then slowly find some engine mounting bolts and mount it onto the tractor. Now, Nick had cut I want to say it's the mower deck belt, so it was easy to get off. And I have to find a pulley for this, which I think I have. And we'll put the connections on, the throttle cable, choke cable, fuel lines, electrical, right? I'm not sure if it's all there. Solenoid, I don't know if all that works, but we'll find out today. As you saw from time lapse, I forgot that I had an engine on here already. So I had to remove this Kawasaki engine. It's a pull start. I did a video on it. I never got past that video. And then I looked at all the stuff here. First of all, there's a solenoid, and that's not your typical solenoid. It looks like a car solenoid. But either way, I believe that yellow wire came loose from the trigger. See? So the yellow wire is a trigger wire. It just came loose from the fitting there. The other side is the ground, which it should be grounded. since it's a 4-post solenoid, you don't necessarily have to have the solenoid attached to the body of the frame, because the bottom one is a ground wire that's attached to ground, theoretically. So I'm gonna have to first attach that yellow wire onto that tab. And then on the other side, I noticed, well, I had actually put the engine on already, but I had to drill the holes bigger because it wouldn't fit 9/16 bolts, which Briggs & Stratton engine threads are 9/16 bolts. So I had to drill the holes bigger. And then when I had 2 engine mounting bolts on there already, I said, man, look at the clearance there. I mean, you literally, the back of that engine was right flush against the dash tower. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to get my hands in there unless I removed the gas tank, which required the bolts to be removed from the bottom. So I took the engine back off again because I knew I couldn't get my hands in there to do the wiring. So while I was doing that, I noticed that I had already accommodated the magneto wire, right? But then I thought, wait a minute, where's the stator wire? Because the stator wire has to connect to that. The stator and the power to back to the battery to recharge the battery. So I'm like, was there a stator in here? So I'm gonna have to take this cover off and see if there's a stator. Holy cow. It's a good thing that I took off the flywheel to see if they had a stator. This flywheel has no magnets on it. It would have never charged. Is that ridiculous or what? Ridiculous, man. So guess what? Now I need to go find a flywheel. I don't know if I have one. And of course, there is no stator. It would have never charged. Can you believe that, guys? Incredible. Incredible. Here's a closer look at it. As you can see, there's no stator. Why does this part here look like there's a patch of some kind? Doesn't that look like there's a patch? I question whether this engine will work at all. But I do have a stator, and I'm going to go look for a flywheel. So the clues are coming in better now. It's much more clear now. So it didn't have a stator, so I found a stator, put a good stator on here, and I noticed that it's a 4-post stator, meaning that it is supposed to be attached to 4 posts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And apparently he busted that 4th post, which is why he patched it with JB weld. See? So that's the reason why it's patched. So this stator is only sitting on 3 posts. But you know what? It's okay. And now we know why the flywheel magnets were gone, is because once those posts broke, things went out of equilibrium, something got caught, but why would the post break? You know what I mean? Unless you dropped it or something, you know? It's weird. So it's very suspect. Very. But, I think if you put a new flywheel on there, it would work. Also, I did the right thing by tucking the stator wire underneath the starter and hooked onto the dipstick reservoir. Has this thing here exactly for the stator wire, because they don't want you to have that wire loose all over the place so that the flywheel teeth would just grind that and break it. So it's designed to go underneath the starter, come out the rear of it, and hook onto the dipstick reservoir. That's how it's designed. Just like that. So now what am I going to do? I checked my shed and I do not have an extra flywheel. What am I going to do? Well, guess what? I actually have a 13.5 horsepower Briggs flathead engine that has bad valves, and I've kept this for many years. And so I believe the flywheel in here will fit. I'm gonna take it out of here and see if it fits on there. We haven't even gotten to the nitty-gritty of getting that tractor put together yet, because there's so many other things. So here's the Honda that I recently fixed. I picked it off the street, has no bagger, everything works. All we did was, I don't even remember what we did. Oh, we loosened up the rear wheels so that it rolls backwards now. That was the only thing wrong with this thing. Fired right up. Anyway, listed it for $275. I know that's a lot of money for a mower that doesn't have a bag that I just found off the street, you know what I mean? But my neighbor, actually, the mother of Hope, who used to live there, she bought a mower from me about 4 years ago. Recently, she just blew the engine because it ran out of oil, you know. And I told her every year, you check the oil, you check the oil, check the oil. She goes, no, I didn't check the oil. So it seized. She brought it back to me, whatever. Anyway, I had it listed for $275. I told her I would sell her this if she wanted to. I let her borrow it for a day so that she could try it out on her lawn. And she said she liked it, and I says, $150? And so she said, okay, but that was a few days ago. A guy just asked me if I would take $225 for it. $225 is better than $150, right? So I'm gonna sell this to the guy for $225 if he buys it. If not, I still have a buyer for it for $150. You know what I mean? Just gonna get rid of it, but it's a very nice mower. Just hope nothing happens to it, because that's the thing about selling it to a neighbor, is that you feel obligated that you have to fix it for them if something happens. You know what I mean? So I kind of don't want to sell it to my neighbor. You guys understand what I'm saying, right? I mean, while you want to be good to your neighbors, you know, you don't want to be stuck being obligated to fix it every time there's a problem. It's just more of a headache. Not to mention the fact that you always have to give them a discount. So you're making less money with possibly more work in the future. So if it was up to me, you guys know I like to help my neighbors out. But if it's going to be a headache in the future and you make less money, why sell it to a neighbor when you could sell it to somebody you don't even know for more money, right? Anyway, I'm not even going to start it up and try, because I know it works really well. I even mowed my lawn with it. Hey, it's a Honda. If it works great. But if you have a problem with the engine, you're screwed, because it takes a super master technician to get it to work. Anyway, we'll meet a guy in a few minutes and see if he buys it for $225. This is the mower that I sold my neighbor about 4 years ago, and she said that she was mowing with it. She mowed with it for 4 years, loved it, and then all of a sudden yesterday or the day before, she was mowing with it and it just stopped running, and then you can't even pull this now because engine seized, you know what I mean? So then she checked the oil and said, yep, there's no oil in it. So I said, you probably blew the engine. You know, maybe I could unseize it. I've had luck with that, but bore could be, the bore could be scored, and, you know, it's Dunsky. You lose compression that way, even if you could get it loosened up. But we'll work on this another time. So yesterday, I stopped filming because my battery ran out, and so I put the hood back on just to make it look nice, but we got to get the engine going, you know what I mean? So let's give it a crank. I guess what I have to do is I got to go get a battery somewhere, and I don't have another battery. Ooh, I have a battery that's still inside the Blue Bayou. I'm not going to use the Blue Bayou, you know. I'm going to get that battery out, see if it works. We'll put it in here. Also, Nick from Bellport had cut the wire, positive and negative to it. So I had to fine tune and make my own wire with connections. So that's what I was doing off camera yesterday, just buttoning up some stuff. But now we get to test it and see if it cranks. So here's a close-up of the positive wire that I had to add to the splice or the cut, and made my own negative wire too. As you can see, they had bypassed the seat safety switch by looping it, jumping it. I am a little worried about the flywheel that I put on there, because the flywheel was for a flathead engine. They designed the keys differently, meaning the degree of where you put it for the timing is not the same. So I'm worried that I don't have the correct flywheel on there and it's not going to get spark at the right time. That's happened before. So I don't think this engine will run. Also, I don't know what's broken in the engine. It could be broken. Doesn't seem like it, but could be. So I don't know if this thing will run right. I might have to consider another engine for this. It would be a shame if it didn't work, because, you know, you got a spare engine there. It just needs a correct flywheel maybe. Oh, hi, Boba. Did you say hello to everybody? Are you gonna say hello? All right. So actually, I have a battery for this one, but it's dead ski. But maybe I'll take it out. I'll take this one out instead. I do plan on working on this eventually, but I want to get the Toro going. This has a bad low compression Kohler command in it, and thanks to Nick Iardi, I have an extra Kohler command, which I plan on putting that in here, and then maybe fixing that one eventually. And of course, I do have a battery in here, a good one from Advanced Auto Parts for the Blue Bayou, but it's kind of a pain to get under that hood. I have to disconnect the roof and all that stuff. So maybe I'll just steal this one. I know this one needs a charge anyway. I'm gonna test this battery. I bet you it's completely dead ski. Yep, completely dead ski. Doesn't even light up the panel. Gonna have to put a charge to this thing, but I might have to get a fast charger, the old-fashioned kind, because the trick will kind of take too long. So I have the battery hooked up. It's a dead battery, but it's on a charger, right? Let's just turn the key and see what happens. Ooh, I hear a buzzing. Right at the solenoid. Nothing. Maybe the solenoid's busted, because it looked a little weird, you know? It looked like a car solenoid. Listen to the sound. Let me show you guys. Never heard a sound like that before. It's very unusual. I'm gonna try to jump the solenoid. Since we have no juice, I just put a battery pack onto there. Gas tank lifts up like this. Has gas in it, so I'm just gonna let it sit here like that. So I'm gonna jump the solenoid now. I'm gonna take you with me. You guys see that okay? All right, here we go. I got a crescent wrench. Yep, flywheel barely moves. Let's put the jumper pack directly to the starter. The positive on this positive side here. Okay, and we'll just tap the block. Woo! Wow, okay. So we got a little bit of that, huh? Let me explain something. So you guys heard it did crank and ignite and start a little, right? Turned over a little. So that's good in terms of the timing that I was worried about, the flywheel timing, because I didn't expect it to ignite at all, you know? So that's good. Bad part is it has difficulty spinning with a newly charged jumper pack directly to the starter. So the solenoid may be busted, or we're not getting current from the switch to the trigger wire onto the solenoid. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my own test wire connected to 12 volts and tap the trigger tab on the solenoid to see if the solenoid works, because it's obviously not engaging unless you jump it, right? I'm not so worried about the flywheel now, but then remember, before I assembled this engine, I did do the valves on it before I put the valve cover on, and valves were good. So if it's not the valves and it doesn't crank well, means that the compression release lever is broken off of the camshaft. And that's maybe the reason why this thing didn't run, you know? And given the evidence of the fourth post on the stator was busted off, it had some kind of catastrophic trauma incident where it could have led to the compression release falling off or breaking off the camshaft. So this engine may not be reliably gonna run, you know. It could have internal problems such as the ACR. But let's rule out the solenoid by getting a test wire. I'm like so annoyed. I just bought a whole bunch of new test wires. Put them somewhere, but I don't remember where I put them. And I don't have it, so I have to use my old one. It's just a test wire. I'm just connecting this to the trigger tab of the solenoid. I'm going to put 12 volts into it. Yep. Solenoid is not jumping, see? You're supposed to, on the tab, it's supposed to just jump. It's supposed to let the solenoid work when you touch it. 12 volts. Nothing. The solenoid's busted. I think the compression release is busted on this engine. I don't think we can use this engine. Hey, so you guys saw in time lapse, talked a lot with the guy because actually he bought it on Facebook Marketplace. And what does that mean? That he could see your profile, at least what you allow people to see. And that he noticed that we had a mutual friend. And so he asked me, how do you know this person? And I says, oh, I blah, 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 you know, and you feel better when you buy something from a guy that knows a guy that you know. You know what I mean? A mutual friend. So there's a little bit more credibility and trust. Therefore, you get less flakes, and the buyer is more peace of mind that he feels more at ease when buying something. So he was a friend of a friend. So I mean, not good friends, but $225 is what I got for it. We agreed to that prior to meeting. Which, look, you guys know there's no way I would have gotten $225 for that mower before the pandemic. There's just no way. I'd be lucky to get $150 for it without a bag. It's a good mower, don't get me wrong, but to get $225 without a bag, insane, unheard of a few years back, you know. And I just picked that off the street recently, you know what I mean? So it's good money. It is a good mower though. Fired right up. Cuts really good. I actually mowed my lawn with it a couple of times, you know. Self-propulsion's very sharp. And of course, pulling it backwards, the wheels go backwards very smoothly now after the penetrating oil seeped in there after a few days, you know what I mean? So pretty stoked. This was mower number 33. And I'm down to like maybe 2 or 3 yucky, disgusting, simple, basic push mowers. And that one Troy built with a Honda engine that I have. $275. That's the extent of my push mowers. And of course, now I'm having difficulty with this Toro, you know, because I don't think the engine's going to run right. You know, so I might have to abandon the whole idea about fixing this one right now and working on that green Craftsman. So I've got the test wire onto the trigger tab of the solenoid, and I'm putting direct 12 volts to it. Okay, that's bypassing the switch, bypassing all the safety switches. And we got live 12 volts going directly to the solenoid that activates the plunger that connects the 2 connections from the positive battery to the starter. If this doesn't work, the solenoid's busted. Nothing. So we have a bad solenoid, which I'm not surprised at because that solenoid doesn't look stock. It looks like a car solenoid, and it's very rusty. So I'm going to go find another solenoid. So as usual, I got a visit from a neighbor. Talking for a while. My battery in my phone died, so it stopped recording when I was doing time lapse. I tried 3 different solenoids, and in the process of putting the solenoids in, the little loop on the positive and negative wire kept on coming off. So I had to re-strip it again, redo those wires. I was doing a lot of testing, and honestly, this one's given me a really tough time because the wiring on this is a little bit different than your normal Lawntractor, you know, Briggs & Stratton, Toro, not Toros, you know, Craftsman LT1000s. Those kind of wiring harnesses are different from this one. The Toros are different. This one actually has a couple of relays on there and a couple of fuses. And there's wires all over the place. And I was trying the ignition switch and it doesn't seem to work right. So I tried a couple of ignition switches. Short of almost frying things up, you know, I decided not to do that. So I was doing multimeter tests on circuits and stuff, I couldn't make heads or tails out of what wire was what. And of course, the tumbler, the ignition tumbler, I took it out, and of course, none of the tabs are listed. It doesn't tell you M, S, L, ACC. It doesn't tell you anything. It tells you what the battery is, what the ground is. You had no idea what those tabs were. So it's kind of like a crapshoot. So I have to do a little bit of research. I'm going to go inside and probably look through the schematics on the wiring diagram for this model, 1438 HXL Toro. But I probably ascertained that the original solenoid was working because I took it out and I tested it. I put positive onto the two tabs, positive on one tab, negative on the other tab, turned it on, and it clicked, that the plunger was moving. So it appears that I did all that for nothing. Anyway, I took the jumper pack, put it directly to the starter and to ground, and I charged it up a bit so it had more power, and it actually cranked a long time and then started, and this ran. I almost went deaf because there's no muffler. So I've got some wiring to do. I can't get the ignition switch key to click the solenoid to turn the engine. I can't. But it does appear that the engine runs and that the flywheel is working with the timing on this engine. So that's good. I just have to figure out the electrical. But I've had enough for today. We've got quite a bit done today. At least we know the engine runs. I wish I had it on video, but my phone died. So when I feel up to it, and I don't feel up to it, do research on the electrical, figure out how. I might have to just rewire the whole thing with another switch, so I would know what tabs are what, and then just hardwire the whole thing, because as it sits right here, I can't figure out the relay, because safety switches, relays, it's just complete spaghetti mess. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this Repower episode of this Toro 1438Hxl. Stay tuned for the second episode, and maybe we can get this going. See you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers. Oh, shit! Oh, that's great! I got that on video!
See you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers.